with former President Joe Biden. He's going to be joined now by the woman who's devoted her life to initiatives that make education accessible for everyone, a fierce advocate for women's rights, and a devoted wife of 47 years. Please welcome back former First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden.
Yeah.
Believe me, I
do. So, Sonny, you have the first question.
I do. Dr. Biden, you have officially been a private citizen for 109 days.
Wow.
What was the first thing you did as a private citizen that you weren't allowed to do as First Lady? And just how is it going?
It's going really well. And the first thing, I don't know. I'm shopping in the supermarket a little bit more than I was.
Yeah.
So, and we've taken the train. We never could take the train before.
Yeah.
In the last couple days, I've been on a lot of airplanes. So I've been in LA and New York and DC. So, so doing a lot of traveling.
But you still have Secret Service. That's the benefit.
Yeah.
But it also means you're not. Anyway.
Of course.
You can't be too out there.
Yeah.
Mr. President, since you left office, there have been a number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities. In the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, you know, think of what we were left with. We were left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying. 1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And you know, one of the things that and
Alyssa, you know, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, he'd get up, he'd put in a full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, you know, reading my book, and he was still on the phone reading his briefings, working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop. It's the White House. Being president is not like a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a life that you live. You live it 24 hours a day. That phone can ring at 11 o'clock at night or 2 in the morning. It's constant. You never leave it. And Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. And if you look at things today, give me Joe Biden anytime.
that's worth the invitation to come to the show.
And Mr. President, just to follow up on this, some of the reporting is that people like the former president you served under, Barack Obama, George Clooney, a longtime supporter of yours, major Democratic donor, Chuck Schumer, your dear friend Nancy Pelosi, also had expressed concerns about your ability to do the job for 4 more years. Can I ask what your relationship is with President Obama and how you address those concerns that they raised?
Well, look, I think that the only reason I got out of the race was because I didn't want to have a divided Democratic Party. It was a simple proposition. And so that's why I got out of the race. I thought it was better to put the country ahead of my interest, my personal interest. I'm not being facetious. I'm being deadly earnest about that.
Yeah, we know.
And I think that, you know, we still But put it this way, I had 6 more months. I did a pretty good job in 6 months. Yeah. As a former president. I mean, I was doing the G20 in Brazil in November. I was meeting with Xi. There's nothing that changed in terms of my work ethic or the success we had with foreign policy or domestic policy. But look, I understand, and the last thing we needed was for me to, and by the way, it's not illegitimate to say, look, I know he only looks like he's 40, but you know, at the end of that term, you know, he'd be 86 years old. I get it. I understand the concern. I really do. But the point of the matter is that I would offer specific evidence, if we had time, exactly what I got done when I was supposedly lost my cognitive capability. And secondly, what we did after we got out of the race. I said when I got out of the race, I was still going to be president. Yeah. I think I did a pretty damn good job the last 6 months.
So, yeah. So, well, you know what freaked everybody out was that debate.
Yep.
It wasn't a great night. It was a bad night.
Terrible night.
And everybody lost their mind.
Yep.
Because, of course, no one has ever had a bad night when they were. Right. Nobody tries to have a bad night. Sometimes it happens. Yeah. So this is what started both sides with this, he can't do this, this needs to stop. Why do you think that caught fire? Why do you think people bought into it, especially the Democrats?
Well, first of all, we still were winning primaries. We were still doing everything. The Democratic Party at large didn't buy into it, but the Democratic leadership and some of the very significant contributors did, even though we raised enormous. Like when I left the race, Kamala had hundreds of millions of dollars. She had the best organized campaign. Every state was organized, et cetera. But, you know, what happens is that it took on a life of, and I had a very, I'm going to say something outrageous. I've not lost many debates in my life. I've been pretty good at doing that. I was sick. I was no excuse, but I was not.
It's an explanation.
It was not, and I had a bad night. Yeah. And I had anyway. I'm not going.
Did you immediately know you had had a bad night?
Yeah, I did. But even after that, the polls just showed me down by 2 points.
And Hannah, you know, Joe came on. I went onto the stage after the debate. I mean, we all saw it. It was terrible. So Joe looked at me and he said, I'll use screwed up. He said, he didn't say that. And I said, yeah.
We all know Joe Biden. We know what he said.
And I said, yeah, you did, Joe. But we have hundreds of people waiting for us. Put your shoulders back. Walk out there. You know, be who you are. And we were not going to let 90 minutes of a debate define his presidency and all those years of service.
Well, Dr. Biden, I do want to ask you, naturally, you are your husband's fiercest advocate and a close advisor, and it's been reported that you created a sort of cocoon around him and kind of limited his interactions with the media and others. Do you think you could have been too close to the situation to objectively gauge whether he could handle a full 4 more years?
I was with Joe day and night. I saw him more than any other person. I woke up with him. I went to bed at night with him. So I saw him all throughout the day, and I did not create a cocoon around him. I mean, you saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making speeches. He wasn't hiding somewhere. I didn't have him, you know, sequestered in some place. I mean, that's
Wish he had.
Was that hurtful to you when they were describing you as Lady Macbeth and all of
Yes,
those?
it was very hurtful. It was very hurtful, especially from some of our so-called friends.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, we see what happened. Sometimes you kick it up and you stand up. The greatest thing is that you then the next day went to the G4. You went all these other places. What am I incorrect?
G20. But you said G4. I think that's a jet. I could have been on one.
What difference?
I know it's a G. But my point is that you were amongst all those people.
Yeah.
And somebody would have said, you know, he's a little. But the only people that were saying it, as I'm understanding it, is people who peripherally are standing out here. And so we got what we got.